It's no secret that Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, is trying to change the overall product of WWE. And honestly, I feel like we're starting to see a really good improvement compared to the previous regime. But now there are some news stories that are going around that make me think about some of these changes and whether they're good or bad. There's 3 of them. We're going to talk about them in today's video. As always, timestamps in the description down below. This actually starts off with Shinsuke Nakamura. For those who don't know, Shinsuke Nakamura competed against Stacks on NXT. And this was actually a really cool, logical way for Tony D'Angelo to bring in Shinsuke Nakamura to NXT. He did have the SmackDown nameplate, and obviously a lot of people were curious, okay, is this like a full transition to NXT, or is he staying on the main roster? What is happening? Well, PW Insider has come out with a report that the former NXT champion will be staying in NXT, but just by making additional appearances. So this doesn't look like it's a full-time change. It looks like WWE just might have some plans for him in NXT to work with some of the talent. And honestly, I think this is actually a good idea. And if you would have asked me a year ago how I felt about this, there's definitely a change of tune. And this is really largely due to the fact that Shinsuke Nakamura right now, as it stands, I feel like when you look at what NXT has become, and especially because there's talent from the UK and whatnot, there are some really exciting matchups I would like to see in NXT, but the one that really excites me is Ilya Dragunov versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And I don't know how WWE would plan to get there, if they would even do it, but when I think of Shinsuke having a couple appearances in NXT for the time being, while still being on the main roster, that's cool. I want to see some exciting matchups, you know, and I think the idea of him versus Stacks was like a cool, logical way to bring him in. Tony D'Angelo wanted to challenge Stacks and kind of show them, like, things aren't always easy. He had a pretty nice match with Shinsuke. Now what's next? And I think that is one of the things that Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and everybody that is working on NXT right now, I think they need to find out what is next and have a plan for everybody that's on that show. Whereas like right now when you watch Raw and SmackDown, everybody does have that plan. Very interesting story today. WrestleVotes came out with an interesting tweet. I'm told that plans are in motion for the 30th anniversary of Raw show coming up in January. Prior to the new leadership taking over, having the show from the Manhattan Center again in NYC was on the table. I'm unaware if that is the case still. Cool. WWE planning an anniversary show is exciting. And the reason why I find this exciting, especially because January is actually not that far away. WWE, the one thing that they don't do enough of, and this is something that I highly praise AEW for. AEW has a way of making their Dynamites feel special. Sometimes they feel like pay-per-view cards. When AEW does, you know, like the what was it, Quake at the lake or whatever it was in Minnesota. Then they did some stuff with Miami. They've done like these little television specials, right? We've seen this implemented on NXT. And it's worked out really well for NXT and AEW. WWE's main roster has not done this yet. And the idea that WWE wants to do a 30th anniversary show is great. I think that is a fantastic idea. If you do it in the Manhattan Center, I think that is a wonderful idea. But I do believe that if WWE, maybe once every quarter, decided to brand a very special episode of Raw and a very special episode of SmackDown, just like NXT and AEW does, I feel like WWE would create a lot more excitement within their product. Now, the idea that WWE is going to do this 30th anniversary is great, but I'm also a little skeptical, and here's why. WWE just did a DX reunion show, and honestly, the DX reunion thing was different from how WWE in the past would utilize legends, because throughout time, legends would be way too involved with the show. It would take up from everybody else. I didn't feel like it was that overbearing for DX. If we have a 30th anniversary show and then you have Mick Foley and a whole bunch of legends show up on television, I'm not sure if that's a good thing. 30 years of celebration, yes, you want to acknowledge the history, and I think Triple H would do that, but I think you also want to acknowledge the future that you are building. I also think this would be a really good opportunity for WWE to bring back The Rock to build WrestleMania. I do. I think if you're going to do a very big special episode, I think because of the fact that The Rock and Roman Reigns is the plan, I think that's the night you bring them in. And that's why I don't want to see it become overflooded with with a whole bunch of returns from legends and legend skits and all this stuff. I really want it to be, a celebration, but focus on the good wrestling, focus on the good content, and the show with The Rock. This should be a star-studded show. The Bloodline should be there. Everybody should be there. All of your top stars should be there. But end it with The Rock and Roman going face-to-face. Start the build to WrestleMania. That's what I would like to see. It appears WWE is launching a new show. A new show for WWE could be on the way. WWE has filed for a trademark called NXT Deadline, with the description being intended to cover the categories of entertainment services, namely a show about professional wrestling, entertainment services, namely the production and exhibition of professional wrestling events rendered live and through media forms of transmission media, multiple forms of media. Anyways, you get my point. WWE is launching a new show. NXT Deadline. What is the purpose of this trademark? Is it a talk show? Is it a wrestling show? Is it a pay-per-view? What is WWE's plan here? My guess, and it kind of relates to what we talked about earlier in this video about those special episodes that you would see on AEW and, of course, NXT. I have a feeling this is going to be like another episodic special for WWE NXT. I'm really, really hoping that this is not another show for NXT, because WWE already has NXT Level Up. They obviously have NXT. They have WWE Raw, SmackDown, Main Event. WWE has a lot of programming. And it would not make sense as a fan of NXT to watch a third NXT show. So my bet is that this is more than likely a specific title for a episodic special, or one thing that should also be tossed around as an idea, and I think this is a good idea for WWE, just like WWE has the bump, I think they should have a show like that specifically for NXT, hosted by yours truly, WWE, Paul Levesque, Shawn Michaels. Give me a call. We can amplify the attitude. We can put on a little persona for the TV cameras. But ideally, that's what I think NXT Deadline could very well be. It's an interesting name. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but honestly, I'm just excited to see that WWE and AEW are doing really good stuff right now. Wrestling is really good right now. It's an exciting time to be a fan. I want to know what you guys think down below.